All right, you guys, good morning. Welcome back to the channel. By now, some of you have seen the trailer that I made about a film in which the Palantir police state is on full display. Trump's Palantir police state. And all of this will be ushered in under illegal immigration. And so that particular film, I was able to finish the film, and what you're going to see next is troubling. Troubling for those that are still asleep in the right-left paradigm, for those of us that have the hope of the next life after all this passes and the establishment of God's kingdom. For those of us that have that hope, this is the sign of the end of times. I'm going to replay the trailer that I did yesterday. About half of you probably saw the trailer because of one element of the control mechanism that we're going to get to as well, which is relevance. They don't need to censor any people anymore. All they need to do is make you irrelevant. So this is why probably about half of you saw the video from yesterday, because YouTube won't do their job, as many of these social media platforms will not. And this is by design. It's part of the control apparatus run by the algorithms. And this film is all about that. Now, I fast-tracked this show because of its urgency. I was going to wait to do this show, but nobody in the truth community covered this film yet, and I could not believe it. Some of what you are going to see today is disturbing. It's going to leave you angry about how you were deceived. This will be some of the proof that will actually help push some people over the edge in terms of understanding what Trump really came to do and how we've been giving our consent all along to the next phase of the New World Order. Now, don't let yourself be angry. Learn from it. Learn that you can trust no man, and that your thoughts, actions, and allegiances and choices have power. Some people will help build the technocracy of their own prison, and others, like ourselves, will oppose it. Now, as we look at this, remember that this film released before Trump even won the presidency. It released in 2024, September. Yet, you're going to see Trump pictured all throughout the film. You're going to see Palantir logo all throughout the film. And of course, later, Trump would clearly align with Peter Thiel and Palantir. But how did this film know? Let's take a look at the trailer that I did from yesterday, and then we will finish the decode today. Now, here's a screenshot. And as you can see, this is just one of many instances in which Palantir's name appears on the buildings all over this movie. And you get the quick impression as you're watching the movie, and I'll name the movie in a minute here because no one's really covered this yet. You get the quick impression that this is all about a documentary rather than a movie. Now, let's get into this, you guys. This is the trailer that I uploaded yesterday. And here you see the darkened skies. It almost looks like fire, doesn't it? It looks like ash and smoke in the sky filled with drones. Now remember, this is also before the night drones appeared in New Jersey. Now, I know a lot of people have been seeing drones in the sky, but it didn't hit national news until New Jersey, right? And that was at the end of 2024, right into 2025. And this movie came out in September, long before the night drones. I want to be very clear here. Let's keep watching. Now, they depict here San Francisco, but this could be any city in America. Here you see a regular military drone. Now, what a lot of people are failing to come to terms with is just because Biden's the president right now doesn't mean that Trump is detached from this. Trump was the one who signed night drones into an executive order in 2017. He also signed into executive order in 2017 the ability of drones to deliver food and offer medical care and to fly out of the sight of their controller. This was all in the executive order, you guys. He essentially deregulated drones and allowed them to fly at night as well. It's all there for anybody who wants to see. Now, let's keep watching here. Enter the stars. And something very strange is happening. In the 1990s, a film called Escape from LA released, and it was all about fire tornadoes engulfing Los Angeles. In fact, there were mass deportations. People were denaturalized in the film as well. They had their citizenships revoked. And there was a president who said he would be the last president. So, of course, all of that overlays with exactly what Trump's ambitions are: denaturalization of already naturalized citizens, being the last president. He's spoken this on at least 2 occasions, that he says Christians won't have to vote again if they vote for him. And this was all in the movie Escape from LA, along with the fake virus in the movie as well. Now, on the left is the map of what LA looked like after they said in the movie that there was a massive earthquake and that LA then became surrounded as an island. And as you can see here, I overlaid the map of the fires going on right now, and it seems to fall right along the borders of what appears to be this inland area that you could essentially call a swamp. There was surveillance, and they were essentially imprisoned on an island in Los Angeles, an island surrounded by a swamp on the left of your screen, a swamp that almost resembles the profile of Donald Trump. Now, here's where things get spooky, because I overlaid a map of the fires happening in Los Angeles. And as you can see, it almost appears as though his hair is on fire. The swamp is on fire. This is unbelievable. So here's the shot from the film with the Palantir logo and the drone flying overhead. Now, a couple days ago, we did a video. This was like Friday. That was a re-upload all the way back to 2020. And you can tell it was from 2020 because I was talking about being angry about us being locked down. And I was said in there that we were in Connecticut. Well, guess what? That was me decoding Escape from LA. And in that, I mentioned everything that you just heard before it happened 4 years later, which is now. We mentioned LA on fire, fire tornadoes. We mentioned the last president. We mentioned a fake virus in the movie. We saw that there were visors, face shields that matched face shields that would then be used during COVID-19. There was so much in that decode. And we told people, escape from LA. That was 4 years ago. And now all this is coming to pass. We even mentioned the denaturalization of citizens. That was part of the plot of the film as well. The film released in the 1990s, and we decoded it in 2020. I want to be clear here because the accuracy of this channel is all that we have, right? If a channel's not accurate in what they're trying to warn and talk about, and things are not coming to pass that they're saying, then that channel does not have value, does it? It's about forward thinking. It's about trying to warn the body of Christ of what's to come and not falsely alarming certain things, right? Because a lot of channels like to do that. It's about telling you what to really look for. And we've been accurate on this channel, haven't we? And I hate to even have to say that, but there are so many distractions. and so many people leading you in wrong directions. But the fact of the matter is the largest threat to us and our existence is what's coming, is what you're going to see today. It's the largest threat because it's the technocracy. You can't escape it. It's the beast. It's the it. And if we all don't stand up and demand a Bill of Rights to protect us from the AI, then this will be our life. Surveillance drones, nitpicking you for collecting rainwater, for feeding your birds, for burning a trash fire in your backyard, for parking in the wrong spot. They don't even have to deploy traffic cops anymore. Just send a drone up. Is this the life we want? Well, this is where it's all headed. And I'm going to show all that to you today. I just need to set the stage and tell you the urgency of this. Okay? We are here. Part of it's going to start happening under Trump, but I think when they're really going to tighten the screws is after Trump. Because all they got to do, as this documentary will state, all they have to do is change the leadership, and then they use the very same tools to then oppress the other side. Let's keep watching here. And there's the robo-dogs. So, oh, Casey, you were picking on Trump when he had robo-dogs at Mar-a-Lago. You're just picking on him. He's not even the president yet.
America's changed. You understand that? I think to create the perfect union of democracy, it's been a struggle from the get-go.
Now, what you're going to notice is even your voices are being recorded, and in the film, which I'll reveal in a second here. I know you guys are chomping at the bit. Casey, what's the name of the film? Well, I'm going to tell it to you in a second here. In the film, they talk about your voice being recorded. And if they pick up your voice and saying certain things, you can be picked up and you can be arrested. Now, what does all this suggest? Well, it suggests that both sides are working together toward the world order. This is the most frustrating part about having a truth channel that not a lot of people get. You guys get it, but it's not a mainstream belief system. Trust me. What is the name of the film? It's called 2073. Here it is right here. A British science fiction docudrama. And essentially, as you can see here, it released in September of 2024 as a premiere. So the film was already made and premiered in Venice. The main release happened on December 27th, 2024, after the election. So before and after the election. Obviously, this was filmed long in advance. And this is why nobody saw it and no one decoded it yet, because it only made $7,000 at the box office. But let's keep going. Now, The first scenes that caught my eye, let me check in with you guys, and then we'll get into these first scenes, was Operation Cherry Blossom. Now, we had all talked about Operation Cherry Blossom back in 2017. There were videos on this channel in 2017 that was warning about a coming pandemic. We decoded All Nightmare Long, Metallica, Death Magnetic with graphene, coffin on the cover. And in the video, there was a plague coming over the jet stream. Started in Washington and moved across the United States to the East Coast. We also decoded Operation Cherry Blossom in 2017, and we decoded Operation Sea Spray in 2017. We told you guys something was up, and then 3 years later came the COVID pandemic. Now, what is Operation Cherry Blossom about? Well, let me show you this. Good morning, everybody. They show it here in this film. Again, if you're just tuning in, the film is called 2073. And this goes to show you that this is something. This isn't just some random decode we did about cherry blossoms. What was Operation Cherry Blossom? Well, let me show you this first.
My grandma used to say her memories were slipping through her fingers like sand. She said soon there'd be no past, no history. She said it was the truth, and she didn't care who heard.
What is Operation Cherry Blossom? It was a code name for a Japanese bioweapon sent on the jet stream in hot air balloons to infect Americans with plague. Now, the film, of course, is set in the year 2073, and it follows the life of this woman that you hear talking, and she lives underground beneath the city. And above her, there is the elite living in these high towers, ivory towers, and they rule with an iron fist, and they rule with technology. Now, as this woman makes her way through her subterranean existence, you realize that the fight is basically humanity against the elite. This is insane. Watch.
I used to help her out. She said we didn't know it, but that was happening to all of us too. My life's turned into one of those sci-fi comics I used to read. When you glean upon the surface after curfew, you have to be quick. People thought the world would end. But the world goes on.
Now, the film then goes on to explain how they got to this point. And it was basically what they describe is basically artificially manufactured crisis. Artificially manufactured crisis to establish complete domination and control, including control over social media, control to silence any dissenting voices. Let's keep watching here. Now, I slowed down this part because it backtracks in time to explain what happens and how this all came to be in 2073. I don't think we got that long. I think it's all happening now. But essentially what you're going to see is Donald Trump pictured here. Remember, this came out before he won the election. This came out essentially when the media in September was telling us that Kamala Harris was going to win. Remember? So here's what happened. Everyone basically went into the cyber world and they were put to sleep. And then there's Donald Trump. Now they have 2054 here. Obviously, he wouldn't live that long, but they show him here. Then they'll show him again here. Now you're going to see why next, because he's a central figure in all this, because he's connected to all these technocrats. Okay. He's firmly established his connection to the technocrats. And it isn't just with his upcoming presidency. It went back to 2017. And they're going to show that here. His connections to Peter Thiel. Keep watching.
This is a new age of impunity. Some countries are actually just going back to the age of elite power.
They're promising to protect you from a threat that doesn't exist. If you have an economic crisis and or a refugee crisis, these demagogues rise.
There are transnational oligarchs.
Transnational oligarchs. Now, these are two individuals, the Koch brothers, that we also covered right around the time of the pandemic during Toilet Paper Gate. Remember that? One of these guys owns, I think it's Unilever or one of the like toilet paper companies or soap companies. They made a killing, didn't they, during the pandemic?
Funding dark money think tanks and fake institutions. When I stumbled into this story, it was really like the scales falling away from my eyes. I personally got really targeted. There was this systematic harassment going on.
Targeted individuals. Now, these are several reporters and activists that are covered in, essentially, this is a documentary, right? They pitch it as a movie, but it's got a very gray state feel to it, doesn't it? It's almost like a documentary because they basically present to you this stuff, which is like interviews and things like that, documentary type stuff. And then they interweave it with the story of real life of the woman who's in the subterranean areas trying to fend for herself in the post-apocalyptic landscape. But this is where we're at now. Social media is now become a place of relevance. So the only voices that are heard are the voices they want heard, right? You should see my, I should show you guys the analytics on my channel. And what you'll see is we'll get a huge jump in subscribers. And then the very next day, you'll get a huge dive. And literally for the last 2 years, that's what it looks like. It never goes up. It jumps up really high and then they take away a set amount. So the graph looks like a sawtooth, and this is palpable. It's real. No one does that. You're either going to start losing subscribers from what you're saying, or you're going to gain subscribers. You don't just keep sawtoothing. That means you're being capped. Let's keep watching here.
Online, when I understood so much is actually controlled beyond the naked eye.
Reporter, they will be allowed to criticize us.
It became overwhelming.
The weaponization of social media was quickly followed by the weaponization of the law.
Now it fits. Now it fits how you make journalists and critics and activists enemies of the state. Social media, we have co-opted them. Information technology, we have used them. They all follow the same playbook.
They all follow the same playbook, and these people are absolutely right. This is how they do it, okay? And thank you to those of you who support alternative media, because the corporations have taken over. And without voices like our channel, you won't ever hear the truth. We'll fall away into oblivion, mind control, and they will socially steer people in the next generation to believing whatever they want them to believe, right? There won't be a dissenting voice. So thank you to all of those of you who do support this channel. We are moving away from fundraiser. And so Rebecca will put a link. We're just going to go straight to PayPal from now on. And fundraiser, there have been problems. They have been blocking the fundraiser, you guys. Many of you have tried to click on the fundraiser link. And then I call fundraiser. I'm like, hey, a bunch of people couldn't get onto the fundraiser. And they're like, we don't know what's going on. So we have to go around these people. They're now trying to defund us. So thanks to those of you that are standing up. And Rebecca will put a link to the simple PayPal link, which will go straight to that. Let's keep going here, because next they show what's on your screen here. This is a timeline of how everything fell apart. And interestingly, they show it in the rings of a tree. Now, this is pretty amazing because we just talked about trees and how each ring represents a year. And this is how I was able to debunk the little season. Remember? Everyone thinks we're in the little season. No, we're not. Go cut open a 2,000-year-old tree and count the rings. That tree was not destroyed yet by fire. That means it goes back 2,000 years. There is no new earth. Jesus didn't come back yet. There is no fire. You can count the rings of very old trees. The oldest trees go back 5,000 years, just after the time of the flood. So we are still in the normal history. You can't recreate tree rings. That's just one simple example to show you where we're at in the timeline. Because if you're in the wrong timeline, guess what? If you're in the timeline believing that the Antichrist already came and that the earth already got consumed by fire and was already remade, and that the mark of the beast already happened, guess what? You're not going to be prepared when the real Antichrist comes and the mark of the beast happens. You're going to think that already happened, and it's going to go right over your head. Now, look at this timeline here. This is crazy. They show here Hiroshima, the first cell phone call, 1973. You guys, this is in my lifetime. I was born in 73. Notice how all of this revolves around technology. 2017, the creation of artificial intelligence. Can you believe this? 2017? That was a year after the Trump presidency. Trump is front and center around this artificial intelligence. Make no mistake, he is attached to this. And then there's some kind of event in 2036. And this is when they take human rights away. Actually, no, that happens here, 2031, Human Rights Act, date of suspension. So they suspend the Human Rights Act. And then it looks like in May of 2032, is that what that says? 2037, that tree was cut down. Now, I believe all of this is going to happen much sooner than what they're showing in these tree rings. But again, I want to point out the fact that all this revolves around technology. This is what I've been trying to tell people. The technology surge that we've experienced in my own lifetime is the canary in the coal mine. It's what gives it all away. It's the sole indisputable evidence that we are approaching something. We are converging on something. And it's something that is not good for humanity. So, what is this event they're talking about in 2036, which is 10 years away? What are they talking about here? Well, they explain next. Let's keep watching here.
And people connecting. People protesting. This is why they came for Grandma. They said it's wrong. They said it's a crime. Places we used to visit got taken over. Walls got built. Access was denied. The event wasn't just one thing. It was a slow creep. And you're desperate. Just surviving. You can't see what's been taken away.
So, this is what we've been screaming from the rooftops, that our privacy is being taken away. And it's like nobody's listening. Nobody cares. Why? Because Trump's the world. He's going to protect our privacy. No, by its very definition, artificial intelligence steals your privacy. Now, Palantir controls the facial recognition technocracy. This is important. This is why in 2024, I asked everyone to write in Jesus Christ in the ballot. Watch. Here they're tracking people. I told you they're using it now on the battlefield, but it will be turned against us at some point. And there you see Palantir again. So there's no denying it now. There's no denying it about what's coming. Now the woman underground ends up getting tracked down. Why? Because they couldn't identify her. For the simple fact that her face was not in the system, they end up picking her up. In other words, she didn't receive the mark. Now the Bible says there will be some that get out of this, 144,000, and we will have to pay the ultimate sacrifice. But then there's the next life.
9/11, Chinese government conveniently said, we also face the Muslim terrorists. When Bush declared war against terror,
so here we have some kind of Chinese dissident giving her testimony about what happened and connecting the dots between what happened in 9/11 and China. So essentially China jumped on board with the hunt for terrorists the same way the US did, except China used it against their own citizens. Wow.
To impose strict policies to make it legal to arbitrarily detain and kill Uyghur people. Using cameras, facial recognition, then this kind of high-tech surveillance started. Whoever signed any petition, ever protested for anything, they categorized the entire population. They set up a working group to examine every person as normal, suspicious, and untrustworthy.
This is what's coming to America, and Trump is going to help bring this in.
Every family to check who has traveled abroad, or every Uyghur aged over 12 must go to the hospital to provide health profile.
So here she's describing, I know it's kind of hard to understand what she's saying, but she's talking about the rules in China where at the age of 12, you have to go submit your DNA, you have to go submit your retinal scan and everything else. And then they run you through a computer, and then they decide if you're a threat to society.
DNA, fingerprints, iris scan, and also voice recognition. Establishing biodata, they had to read 20 times one paragraph of newspaper. Facial recognition from various different sides of their face, whether you are normal, you are suspicious, or untrustworthy. And then the computer can automatically give a result.
China is the blueprint because this technology is for sale. We're on the precipice of probably the biggest revolution that the world has gone through in modern times.
In order to scan their faces into this wolf pack database, Israeli soldiers use facial recognition software to take photos of Palestinians. It's the latest component, really, of a system of total surveillance of the Palestinian population.
Wow. So this is already being deployed domestically on many fronts. And the only thing, well, there's really nothing that can stop it at this point. I mean, we tried to do our job here to wake people up. But as you could see, 77 million people voted for Donald Trump. Because they didn't get it. They didn't connect the dots. And then he showed his hand by filling the cabinet with all of these billionaires of the technocracy, which are about to be named in this film almost a full year before they publicly aligned with Trump. Let's keep watching here.
You only need a change of government or change of circumstances before it's used in a totalitarian way. Because we have this totalitarian architecture around us.
There's a new set of kings that nobody voted for.
For charity.
Welcome. Wow.
You purchased Twitter with.
And they have more money and power than any corporation ever has.
Tesla boss Elon Musk is.
We are worth more when we are dead slabs of predictable human behavior.
These technology companies have become behavior modification systems for sale to the highest bidder.
Technology domesticates us into the new kind of human.
The longer nation states do not use their power to regulate artificial intelligence, the more data and power it gets.
There will come a point where no job is needed.
We are now solving problems with machine learning and artificial intelligence that were in the realm of science fiction for the last several decades.
The AI will be able to do everything.
Wealthy getting wealthier, the poor getting poorer. AI will exacerbate that. And that, I think, will tear society apart.
These people will have more power and wealth than the entire world. We continue giving our money to these technology corporations, and that's what the most alarming thing is.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Peter Thiel.
Peter Thiel, the most influential venture capitalist in Silicon Valley.
So there you heard it. Peter Thiel. This is a big deal, you guys. This is the most important thing that all of us should be talking about right now, because this will be our world. Now listen closely to Peter Thiel, because to me, I got a Bill Gates vibe out of him. Now, I had never heard this guy talk before. We've been covering him since before the election, but I had never heard him talk before. This guy first came on my radar when I started decoding Vance, Trump's vice president, and I noticed that he was very closely connected to Peter Thiel. But listen to Peter Thiel. Again, very Bill Gates type vibe. Almost sounds like a frog-like voice.
From a libertarian perspective, the Western governments are not working that well. They're all these things. They're not very competent.
He is ultra libertarian. I mean, it's like a real bring down the system ethos.
Our system only works with growth. And as a libertarian, I'm always sort of anti-government and anti the state. But there's also been an extraordinary decline of competence of the U.S. government. Corporations are underrated because so many of these other institutions do not work. It's one of the things that's endlessly frustrating.
Billionaires should be allowed to pay less in taxes. Businesses should be allowed increasing freedom, bordering on the freedom to kind of run the world.
It's almost like they came out of the same cloning bed with the way they talk in the frog-like voice. Reminds me of Revelation, the false prophet, the Antichrist, the three frogs, the unclean spirits. Now, what makes me upset sometimes is how easily most people are deceived, believing that Trump is good and Biden is bad, or Biden is bad and Trump is good. Casey, we're way better off than with Kamala. You still don't get it. You're failing to see the very basic truth that both sides have sold us out to something much larger. And they always have, because they work for their master in chief, the devil. And even after seeing a film like this, that precisely outlines pretty much every single one of our concerns going back through the history of this channel, people will still say to me that Trump is way better than Kamala. It's as if nothing that you show them is absorbed or understood. It's sheer ignorance to the progression of this technocracy that spanned several presidents. And as the pot of water boils around them, they still won't wake up. They still think there's truly a choice, and that these people care who they voted for, and that votes are real. At this point, nothing is real that these people tell us. Now, maybe this image will help wake some people up. Maybe this will wake some people up. Trump and Obama chumming it up, giggling at the funeral of Jimmy Carter. Now, some channels tried to read their lips. Apparently, there was a whole conversation going on between Trump and Obama. Now, I'm not a lip reader, so I don't know. But some of the allegations of what they're saying are shocking and unthinkable. Betrayal, because it's all a play. Now, recently I told you, like I said, you know what? You guys think that the Democrats and Republicans hate each other. I go, one day we're going to see Obama playing golf with Trump. Well, this is pretty close to it. I mean, they are at a funeral. Some people say, oh, he's keeping his enemies closer. What if they were doing this during the election? That's how you do a litmus test on your inner feelings and try to make sense of this. Imagine if this was happening during the election. Remember? Because we had Obama over there at the Democratic National Convention saying all these bad things about Trump. And then we had Trump on the other side making fun of Kamala. But imagine if you saw the two of them doing this. Then you would be offended, right? You'd be like, none of this is real. So why is it different that it's happening now rather than during the election? There is no difference. It is what it is. It's revealing the truth about who these people are. We're the ones that keep falling for it. Now let's keep watching here.
He's not just this singular figure, he's somebody whose ideas have proliferated. Following Thiel is sort of this path through the history of Silicon Valley.
It's obviously very dysfunctional to have, mass homelessness. It's very dysfunctional to have no law and order.
Peter Thiel owns this company, Palantir, a Silicon Valley big data company, and it's infiltrating itself into the NHS.
Concordance wants to fix the fragmented healthcare supply chain.
Peter Thiel is a perfect example of a libertarian tech bro.
He's ahead of the curve, and I want to thank him, and you have pretty special back. He's ahead of the curve, and I want to thank him, and you have pretty special back.
That was back in 2017. This isn't a brand new thing. This goes back to the original Trump presidency.
He's ahead of the curve, and I want to thank him, and you have pretty special back.
Which has got its claws into the British government.
Department of Homeland Security, Immigration, Customs Enforcement. And up until very recently, all of its customers were the government. This includes the Department of Justice, Department of Defense. The first funding that Palantir ever got was actually the venture capital arm of the CIA.
The idea that a company like that, a company involved in surveillance, in counterterrorism, in border enforcement, has any place in the NHS.
These are very large structures.
Now, at this point of the documentary, I had tears of anger. Because the notion that 13 billionaires give two rats about you and me and that people on our level believe that they do, that they care, they're part of the problem. They're the ones helping to march us towards the technocracy. I mean, at the least. Okay, let's say you did vote for Trump. At the least, demand from him a Bill of Rights to protect humans from artificial intelligence. This stuff should have no place in policing or government or tracking citizens. It should have zero place in our American experience. And when I tried to put together our own Bill of Rights in a show that we did to protect humans against AI, about half of you watched the video. And I'm not blaming you, but it just goes to show how out of touch people are. They're already willing to walk right into the dystopia. Now, what you're going to see next is a foreshadowing of the LA fires. Again, in this documentary, long before it happened, they have a whole segment in here about fires consuming the earth.
In surveillance, in counterterrorism, in border enforcement has any place in the NHS.
These are very large structures, miles on end.
Before we get into the fires, this is Bezos talking about how he's going to build space worlds. Space worlds. These people want to elevate themselves above the Most High. They're following Satan's playbook. So he's got the satellite up there, and he's going to make a world up there.
And they hold 1 million people or more each. I rotated to create artificial gravity with centrifugal force. Some of them would be more recreational. You could have a recreational one that keeps 0G so that you can go flying. Speed transport, agricultural areas. These are ideal climates. These are shirt sleeve environments. People are going to want to live here.
Where this group.
Now, let's break that down a little bit before I move on here. Let me go check in with you guys, because you guys probably need a breather here. This movie was loaded. What was Bezos talking about? Let's break this down a little bit further. Bezos is trying to be like God. We've talked a lot about what the Garden of Eden must have been like, haven't we, on this channel? The garden had many trees. What is a tree, really? What was the garden, really? And we had postulated that maybe the Garden of Eden was many worlds that God created for Adam and Eve. The basic shape of a tree, you guys, is basically a torus field. It's an electromagnetic world, the same one that surrounds our plane. And so, Adam and Eve partaking of the fruit essentially meant entering different worlds, playgrounds, so to speak. Except they got trapped in the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, which is where we're at now. We are stuck in a frame of reality. We are stuck in one world, a world in which we will surely die, just by the mere physics of the world we live in. And God knew that. So why he told Eve not to partake of that particular tree. So what is Bezos trying to do? He's trying to create his own universe, to be the God of his own universe by putting up all these trees of the garden above us. Now remember, I also told you guys that these trees of the garden, that the Garden of Eden was likely above us. And that each of the galaxies that we could see with the telescope was the tree that was severed from the surface of this tree. In other words, these wormholes are tree trunks going into different frames of reality, going into different trees of the garden. Except Adam and Eve got stuck in this tree, this horrific tree we live in now, the tree of duality, knowledge of good and evil. This is why we can't help people understand that if you just go to the middle where Jesus is between the two trees, that the thieves were crucified on. He was trying to tell us something. Believe in him. It's the only way out of this tree, through the narrow gate, the wormhole back to him, everlasting life, out of this kingdom and into his kingdom. This kingdom is built on sinking sand. Sinking sand, like an hourglass, which is also shaped like a magnetic field. The only way out is through him. This is why it's so frustrating, because people don't get it. They're like, this is better than that. And they think that everything's that, and it's not. That's the lie. The lie is to pick one side or the other, that the devil controls both aspects of. He controls the Republicans, he controls the Democrats, and all these pretend issues that he's creating are pretend. And we fall for it out of fear, right? Biggest fear now, illegals, Iranians, Chinese, Now, I'm not saying that we shouldn't secure our borders. I'm not saying that it isn't a threat, but notice how they've hyperbolized it. Now, every person across the border is a gang member, a rapist, a fentanyl pusher, a Chinese, an Iranian. How can they be all of those things? And that's the big giveaway. That's the big clue that they're going to use that fear to bring in all of this that we're talking about now. Let's keep watching.
Areas, these are ideal climates. These are shirt sleeve environments. People are going to want to live here.
Where this group of elite tech bros creates the blockchain and the algorithms that automate our reality. Techno-libertarians really hoping for some kind of a techno-monarchy under their benevolent programming, godlike wisdom.
Another frustration is trying to explain to people that blockchain and crypto is not the freedom currency. It's the death currency. It's the method of enslavement. Because in order to have a technocracy, you have to be able to control money. And cash does not allow you to do that. They need it all digital so they can turn it off and turn it on based on your behavior. But yet we've got 3/4 of the truth community selling crypto and saying, oh, it's a freedom currency. It's like they're asleep. They don't get it. Crypt means death. There are very few of us in the truth community left that truly understand that crypto was created by these technocrats. They're the ones that created it. It's a test run for the final digital currency. They had to get everyone adopting it, and now it's everywhere. You guys, it's even in PayPal. Going back 2 or 3 years, they were already allowing cryptocurrency. So this tells you everything you need to know if you're awake. And here come the fires. I'm sorry I jumped the gun about this, but you guys, look, we all know that this is foretold in the Bible, that in the end times, 1/3 of the earth and green grass will be burned up. So this isn't, you shouldn't be afraid or alarmed. If you read the Bible, it tells you that all of these things are going to happen. There you saw the drones. Remember, this was before New Jersey ever happened. They were already showing all these drones overhead.
Could this world and my life have been different if I'd have done something? Stood up, fought back.
Now, this is shocking. I don't know what tunnel they're in, but what you're going to see next is the earth consumed by fire.
Oh my God. Oh my God, please stop, please. Oh my God. Please, please get me out of here. Please. Please.
Now we have our world on fire.
Wow. Just wow. Long before the LA fires. Now, here's the part of the film that I don't agree with. Okay. they blame all this on climate change. And you're going to hear this next woman speaking, and she's going to beg for immediate energy transition, which of course is not the answer, because based on our research, any energy transition to electricity comes with its own grave issues, doesn't it? Such as all of the stuff that happens when you try to mine a bunch of lithium out of the ground for batteries and energy storage. You have sulfuric acid production by the metric ton. You have poisoned groundwaters, and you have large swaths of the surface of the earth annihilated, never to grow back again in these lithium fields. So the notion that we're going to, fast track, electricity, go to electric kingdom instead of the oil kingdom, and doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's like rats jumping off of a sinking ship onto some driftwood only to be eaten by a shark 15 minutes later, right? But the controllers, they want to expedite the timeline into other failing technologies that they're then making money off of, right? They're still making money off of electric kingdom. Look at Elon Musk and the Tesla. And then what'll happen as soon as they run through all these technologies that they've already decided they're going to make money off of, then they'll bring the world to its knees and people will finally accept depopulation. And that's the goal. And this is why God said, had I not cut those days short, there would be no flesh left, because this is where it's all headed. So I don't agree with this woman's notions about fast tracking to the electric technology, because that's not the answer either. Let's keep watching.
We should be accelerating into the energy transition now. It's not in the future.
They crush democratic institutions from within. They don't stay in their countries. This year, 72% of the world is under authoritarian rule. They then ally globally, and that's where we begin to see the power shifts.
And in summary, if you're angry at me because because I should be blaming Biden more, and you think none of this has anything to do with Trump, ask yourself, are we closer or further away from the police state since 2016? Ask yourself, has technology encroached more into our privacy since 2016 and before? I mean, we can go back. If it makes you feel better, we'll go back to the Obama years, okay? Since when did we accept cameras all over New York City watching us? Remember that used to be something that only happened in London and England? Remember those days during the Obama years? And now all of a sudden we just accept this. Now we have algorithms creeping around, capturing our faces. When did we allow this to happen? Well, we allowed it to happen because we got put to sleep in the right-left paradigm. Now, when I say we, I'm not talking about the people on this channel. I'm talking about everyone outside of this channel who can't seem to bring themselves to the truth. Now, tomorrow we will be starting a new podcast series called Fire and Ice. And it will recount all of the fire and ice warnings that we started giving in about the year 2020. We were already talking about fire and ice climate. And all of a sudden now it's happening. We've got fire on the West Coast and ice on the East Coast. So we're going to basically go one by one through a 16 video playlist or podcast. And we're just going to browse it. We're not going to watch them in the entirety. So I'll be live with you as we go through them, starting with the fire and ice eclipses that kicked off the pandemic in December of 2019. Yes, there was a winter solstice eclipse, the ice that marked the beginning of the pandemic. The first case happened on the day of the eclipse in China. And then in 2020, a few months later, during the summer solstice, were the lockdowns. And there was another eclipse that happened on the summer solstice 2020, and there was your fire. Those are the first inklings that we had that there was some kind of fire and ice component to our reality. And then the rest is history. As we tracked the fire and ice in films, in movies, it was in Ghostbusters, it was icy hot, it was everywhere. And here we are now, and now they're saying, oh, it's not climate change, it's climate extremes. That means it's going to be super cold sometimes and super hot other times. Fire and ice. We even tracked the volcano that happened in Reykjavik. Fire and ice in Iceland. So this is real. It's a real last days phenomenon. So we will be going back through that, and then I'll intermix that with other videos, other live shows, because we need to cover Trump's weird executive order just before the pandemic. We'll do a whole show on that, in which he talks about a coming pandemic. And he met with China too. So I love each and every one of you. I got to get off of here because I'm upset. I'm just upset about all this. So much work that we're trying to do to wake people up. And it's just, I just feel like we're just not getting anywhere. I just feel like we're not reaching people that need to hear this. So we will carry on. And thank you for doing your part. Those of you that support the channel, and also those of you who care, that show up every day. And just let's try to think of other ways to break through the glass ceiling. Let's try to think of other ways to try to reach the people that need to hear this information. Maybe there is no way to do it. Maybe it's all lost. Maybe it's just what we are. And it's going to get really weird, isn't it? It's going to get really weird because of what I just showed you today. But I will see you guys tomorrow. Much love to everybody. Take care and be safe.